How's it going, AND Camp? This is Justin Giboney, president of the AND Campaign, and this is another civic update where we are trying to raise civic literacy among Christians so that as we go out and engage society, we can do so more in a more informed and effective manner. It is essential, Christians, that as we go about our Father's business in the public square, that we do so in an informed manner, that we're compassionate, and also that we are in that conversation with our convictions intact. And so the AND Campaign is trying to help people be more deliberate in doing that, and also provide a framework, because if you're not deliberate and you don't have a framework, that's hard to accomplish. So we want to be a resource in helping you do that in a better way, engage society in a better way. Today, I want to talk a little bit about technology, more specifically artificial intelligence, and how Christians should be thinking about artificial intelligence and how we should engage it. Now, many of you know that artificial intelligence is basically computers performing tasks that would usually have to be performed by human intelligence. And as technology advances, there are more and more things that humans used to do that computers are now doing. Now, that provides us with some great opportunities, but there are also some threats that go along with that if our ethics in that area are not correct. Me and my cousin Jermaine talk about this all the time, and Christians, it's something to be concerned about, or at least looking at. And if you're not paying enough attention to it, you should, because it is something that could be either good or it could be, harmful. Now, I'll say this. Technology and technological advances, just to further that point, are not bad in and of themselves. I don't think it's something that Christians have to be afraid of. Technological innovation can actually save lives, and we see that happen all the time. And it can increase the quality of life for our neighbors. So in certain instances, we should be supportive of technological innovation. That said, it can also be misused. Technology can be used in excess, or it can be used to further some destructive purposes. And so we should be paying attention to it. We should be asking, where is technology going, and what do we have in place? What mechanisms do we have in place to make sure that it doesn't go too far? Now, one of the things that many of you who've been listening to our civic updates for a while have probably heard me say is that when it comes to technology, one of the things that we have to watch out for is our technology getting out ahead of our ethics. And that's when technology is moving as fast as it is right now. Sometimes it takes longer for our ethics to catch up with that. Because what our ethics do, and that's important, because what our ethics do is they tell us how technology should and should not be used. What are the limits to our uses of technology, and how can that go wrong? But when humans have the technology, but they haven't thought through exactly where it can go wrong and where it can be helpful, that can be problematic. And so with that in mind, our friends over at the Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission, which is run by President Dr. Russell Moore, issued a statement last month about artificial intelligence, and they were really applying biblical principles to artificial intelligence to provide an ethic in that regard. And it says that the purpose was to proactively engage the field of artificial intelligence rather than waiting for it to affect our community even further and then trying to catch up from there. So I think that's the right spirit. That's what we should be doing. Now, it applies these principles in a few categories. I'll name a few of them: medicine, human bias, sexuality, work, data and privacy, security, and war. And so I would suggest that all of you go check out this statement. I'm going to talk a little bit about this statement right now. There's some of our very close friends, some folks who support the AND Campaign, who actually signed the statement, and it's definitely worth checking out. So the statement, like I said, it provides some principles, and it starts off with a very important principle. And it says that technology should not be assigned a level of human identity, a level of human worth, human dignity, or moral agency. This is very important. We should not get to the point where we are treating technology or robots like they are actually humans. Where they are in control of a kind of a moral conversation, or we're relating to them as if they're really humans, right? Because they're not, and there needs to be that separation. So I thought that was a good place to start. It says that the focus of artificial intelligence should be increasing human flourishing, and to whatever extent possible, to alleviate human suffering. Right? Now, when it was talking about how it applies to medicine, it says that artificial intelligence advances in medical technology are actually expressions of God's common grace. And so the concept of common grace means that God has given all humans, Christians and non-Christians, a level of grace that allows us to love and learn and so on. And so these medical technologies that are actually saving lives and increasing the quality of life for people is a measure of common grace. Now, that isn't saving grace from God. There's a difference there, but it is a measure of common grace. But what we need to keep in mind when we're looking at these technological advances is that although they're great, we need to understand that death and disease can't be eradicated apart from Jesus Christ, right? So there may be things, we may have advances there, but we'll never completely get rid of it apart from Jesus Christ. And that's important to keep in mind too. And that artificial intelligence does not make humans more complete. That's outside the realm of technology. Our completeness, our identity is outside of that realm. And in order to have a healthy relationship with artificial intelligence or a healthy understanding of artificial intelligence, we need to keep those things in mind. So I'm glad that they pointed that out. It also goes into saying that artificial intelligence should be used and can be used to identify and eliminate human bias. So where it can point out human bias and kind of eliminate it, that's helpful, but it shouldn't be used as a tool of human bias or to further any particular human bias, right? So that's interesting. That's a good place to start. Now, one of the things that a lot of people are talking about, or at least wondering about, is how artificial intelligence and sexuality, how should Christians be looking at artificial intelligence when it comes to sexuality? And the statement says this. It says that artificial intelligence should not be used in the pursuit of sexual pleasure. That's a big one, because when you're talking about these sex robots and things of that nature, they're saying that it shouldn't be used in the pursuit of sexual pleasure, that it is not a pure substitute for the biblical expression of sexuality between a man and a woman, right? So you are not relieved of being sinful because you're having intercourse or doing something with a robot. And it sounds funny, it may sound like a joke, but that's something that as Christians and pastors and others, we really have to take into consideration as these things seem more real. We know they're never real. What does that mean? What are the implications? They're saying it shouldn't be used for sexual pleasure. It also goes on to talk about work and how should it apply to work. It says that artificial intelligence can actually assist in God's plan for human working. But that it shouldn't be used so that we can pursue a life of pure pleasure, right? So have robots do all the work and we just sit back and enjoy our lives, right? That's not what it should be used for, because God wants us to work. God wants us to engage in work. It has a lot to do with human dignity and all that stuff. Now, this statement doesn't say this, but I would also ask the question, how much should we use artificial intelligence to eliminate the labor market, right? To eliminate jobs and things of that nature. Is there a limit to that, or do we just kind of let the market decide? I think that's something we should think about too, although not necessarily clearly or directly addressed in this particular statement. The next thing we see is that technology shouldn't be used to infringe on privacy. And this is a huge one. When it comes to data, when it comes to people, having privacy when they're online, this is an issue where our ethics really has to catch up fast. Because we've been seeing, all of you probably have the instance where you say something or you go look at something and then you're on your Instagram, you're on your Facebook, and now you're getting ads for it. And you're like, how did this happen, right? And to a certain extent, we actually agree to those things a lot of times when we sign the agreements when we're going on to social media, but we really don't know the extent to which it's intruding on our privacy. And so we really have to be careful when people are using these type of technologies to dig into our lives and market to us. Sometimes that goes too far, and it's saying it shouldn't be used there. It says it should be used when it comes to security, that it can be very helpful when it comes to securing people, but when it comes to war, and this is a big one, when it comes to war, it says that artificial intelligence should be used for security, but not given the agency to carry out genocide or torture. And so you could just see like an unmanned plane or something like that going and being genocidal, right? And really wreaking havoc on the earth. We have to make sure that doesn't happen. An interesting conversation. Of course, I couldn't cover the whole thing in 10 minutes, but go look at this statement. You should be thinking about how artificial intelligence is affecting us. Take care. Have a good week. And I will be back to you next week with another Civic Update.